So this talk is all about self-care and how we can consciously and really create a self-care routine that supports us and that is really fills us up. Because I think it's really important. I think sometimes we have this idea that self-care is selfish. Even we might know in our heart that that's not really true, but we feel like there's so many people we need to take care of. There's so many responsibilities that we have that there's just not enough time. Like we will generally put ourselves last, and we won't put ourselves on our own schedule because we've been sucked into this kind of busy trap. So I'm going to talk about that as well. So really about how we can start to prioritize self-care, because it is so important. How we can create boundaries around self-care and around what we really need to feel filled up. I'm going to talk about what self-care is and what self-care isn't. One of my students who has worked with me, she said something that it just dawned on me. She said, I now know what self-care is. And it was something that she didn't even know what that looked like. Like, what does self-care even look like? Because it's sometimes just so not on our radar. We're just really not doing it. So it can seem like this kind of idea that we're not really putting into play. So I just want to ask real quick before I dive in, and if anyone wants to raise their hand, like, what brought you here tonight? If anyone's what? Oh, Carol. Carol's awesome. Yeah, Carol. She posted, maybe I don't know if you're a Facebook friend, but she posted a thing on Facebook. I wanted to read it because it really summed up what my message and what I'm gonna talk about. This is the quote that she put up. I'm tired of people romanticizing overexertion. Exhausted is not the new chic. Coffee, though a delicious necessity, is not a food group. And running on fumes is not admirable. Why do we hold pedestals for sleepless nights, breakdowns, and inner turmoil? Are those things really to aspire to? Self-care, balance, the ability to know when your body, mind, and spirit need to take a step back. Those are things that we should admire. We have to stop blurring the line between commitment and self-endangerment because too many people are burning out before they have a chance to truly shine. So I really love that, and it really embodied what I was going to talk about, and it was just the perfect timing. So before I talk about what self-care is, I think it's good to know what self-care isn't. So self-care is not rewarding ourselves or comforting ourselves in a bowl of ice cream or a bag of chips, or I mean, we never do that, right? A bottle of wine, whatever, And it's we'll do that. At the end of the day, it's I deserve this, I need this, and that's our self-care, so to speak. And it's not trying to do every single thing on our to-do list, so we feel productive and we feel we are actually making it easy on ourselves later on. It's not that, especially when it means that we're going to have to work extra or stay up too late, or when we recognize that we're already exhausted and we just need to rest, but we just do that last thing, not check that last email or answer that last whatever. Self-care is not becoming the martyr or this. I think of it as kind of a passive-aggressive martyrdom when we take care of everyone else and we don't do the same for ourselves. And we can kind of hide behind that, I have to take care of my kids, I have my job, I have all these people, and then we feel somehow good about ourselves because we've got everyone else taken care of, but we're not giving ourselves that same respect. And self-care is not really vegging out on a marathon of TV shows and Netflix at the end of the day because we can't do anything else because we're just so spent. And not that any of that stuff on its own is bad. There's nothing wrong with wine every once in a while, or chocolate every once in a while, or movies every once in a while. But when we use it as just as a way to numb and mask and just fill the void that we're experiencing because we're not really nourishing ourselves on a really deep level. And that's what we really have to, I think that's really important because that's really, we want to feel nourished, we want to feel happy, we want to feel like we're like living a life that we enjoy and that has pleasure, like intrinsic pleasure. And some of that stuff, like it might give us pleasure like short term, but it's not like deeply nourishing. So what self-care is being able to say no, like being able to really say no to commitments and say no to invitations or things that people ask of us that are it's not aligned to our heart and is not in alignment with like our highest aspirations, our highest desires. Self-care is really what I call body integrity, and body integrity is like honoring our body honoring our body, our mind, and our spirit. So when we feel tired, it's not plowing through. It's like when we feel tired, we sleep, we rest, we stop, we hit the pause button. Body integrity is when we're doing something that we know is destructive, whether it's just like a bad habit, eating the wrong things, or whether you're just not taking care of ourselves and we know it's bad, yet we keep perpetuating that habit and we just can't, we're like stuck in a rut and we just don't know how to stop. Body integrity is letting go of those habits and even like relationships that are just, we feel like we've outgrown. We feel like we want to move beyond. We feel like we're being pulled back with habits and behaviors and experiences that we feel like we are ready to move forward from. And self-care is really just giving ourselves the permission to do things that are purely for our own like pleasure, like hobbies, or like spending quality time with the people we love and doing things that really reading a good book, or just like doing nothing, which is like we can't do nothing, there's like so much to do. so that's what self-care is, and there are specific habits that I'm going to share with you tonight that are my favorite self-care habits, and these are the habits that are based on Ayurveda. So just quick show of hands, who's heard of Ayurveda? So Ayurveda is considered to be the sister science of yoga. It's really like the healthcare limb of yoga. And it's the oldest healing system in the world. It's 5,000 to 6,000 years old. So it's really time, it's stood the test of time. And what's really cool is that now modern science is beginning to prove all of the stuff that these like ancient rishis, they knew just intuitively, like before all this stuff, all the scientific measurement devices that we have now. But now they're actually proving that all these habits that are part of like the Ayurvedic lifestyle actually have a profound effect on everything, on our body, on our mind, on our spirit, on our energy. So that's really where I kind of learned these habits. So just quick, my story. I really recognized my need for self-care when I had my first kid. So when I was pregnant, actually even before that, when I was pregnant with my first son, he's 7.5. I was living in New York at the time, and I was a yoga teacher, and I was mostly teaching private. So I was like going all over New York City every day, like driving, like subways from one side to the other. And I was pregnant, and I wasn't slowing down at all. I wasn't slowing down, so I got like a foot fracture because you're like, when you're pregnant, you can't exactly go along the same way that you usually. Is anyone a mom? Quick show of hands. Yeah, so And so then when I had my baby, we lived up like flight of stairs, and I didn't have my parents there, my husband's parents weren't there, so I didn't have a whole lot of help. And I still wanted to keep going, and I started teaching as soon as I could. Like as soon as I was had the baby taken care of, like somebody could take care of the baby, I was off teaching again. And then I was okay, taking care of my baby and making sure the house was always clean. I was making sure still the groceries were always bought and the foods were always, or the meals were always cooked. And I was just filling a void. And I think I was suffering postpartum depression because. And I think that's actually, I'm not going to go into that, but that's I think a big hole in our healthcare system. I think there's a lot of attention paid on prenatal care and getting you all ready for having a great birth. And then when you have the baby, it's see ya, you're on your own. And if you don't have family around and you're expected to do it all. And in the States, they don't have like the year maternity leave like they do here. But also I was self-employed, so I wasn't gonna have that anyway. So I was suffering postpartum depression, and I was just feeling that by just busying myself, like just trying to like stay busy and just keep myself occupied, so I didn't have to really feel like this deep feeling of sadness and of loneliness and of like this big transition. Like the biggest transition you will ever experience is having a child. And like how, you know, your whole world changes. Like your life is no longer your own. And that's what I really felt like. I felt like my life was not my own anymore. Like I felt like I had no control over like what I was doing anymore. And so luckily I was still doing yoga every day, and that was like that hour of yoga was just like a godsend, and it was like my time. And I would feel good for a little bit after, but then quickly, you know, an hour later, I just felt it was back to feeling shitty. So eventually my path led me to my Ayurvedic teacher, and I just started to implement these habits, these just daily habits of Ayurveda. And from implementing these habits, I started to like regain my energy. So not only was I just like filling the void, but I was breaking my system down. Like my immune system was broken down. I was getting sick all the time. I was relying on like tons of coffee. And then at the end of the day, I was like, I needed the wine, you know, to like relax because I deserved it because I worked so hard. And so, you know, I was depleting myself and I was running myself down, and you know, that's what happens. Like our hormones get totally out of whack. That's like you see adrenal fatigue, you see hormonal issues like infertility, menopause symptoms, PMS that really sucks. And then there's, you know, autoimmune diseases, there's degenerative diseases. This is all like lifestyle diseases because of the way that we are currently living, our modern lifestyle, our modern go, 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 convenience, like lifestyle that is not the way nature intended. And our bodies, you know, our bodies are, our physiology is very old, yet this lifestyle is, you know, gosh, in like the last, I mean, it's just going faster and faster, just like how fast it's going now. It's really like the last, I don't know, 50 years, I would say. Our body can't adapt that quickly to this huge change in our life. And, you know, the amount of stimulation we have there, I heard somewhere that it was like, the amount of stimulation in one day is more than like our ancestors had in like their entire life. So we're having to process that. And we're just not, we don't know how to deal with like all that stimulation, and our bodies are breaking down. And that's why you see all these issues coming up, all these autoimmune diseases and degenerative diseases and cancers, and just, you know, because we're so out of sync. So Ayurveda is really based on getting back in sync with nature's rhythms and with living the way that nature intended, the way that we're supposed to function, and the way that we're supposed to eat, and the way that we're supposed to live in the cycles of like light and dark, like day and night. We're not nocturnal. We're not. You know, nobody is a night owl. That's just an imbalance. That is like a result of like a lifestyle pattern that's actually very destructive, and that's actually, you know, now more and more being recognized as like an epidemic, like our lack of sleep, and it's very big. So once I started to implement these habits, like everything started to change. Like my mood like totally got uplifted. My depression went away. I felt totally energized. I like no longer needed coffee. I like kind of lost my taste for even having a lot of wine. Like it was just less and less. I just didn't even really want it, which was crazy because I was always like really into wine. And I worked in restaurants for a long time in New York City, and it was always about like good wine, and then it was just, you know, a lifestyle pattern that, you know, I was like clinging on to. It's like my wine. But then it's like when we're out of balance, we crave things that bring us more out of balance. When we start to get in balance, we don't want that stuff anymore. Like we just naturally don't. It's not like, often we'll feel like we have to like cut something out. Like I have to like cut this out. Like no more sugar. I have to like, we feel like we have to, it's like a war against our cravings and our bodies, and we feel like we're having to fight against these like desires that we have because we know better. But literally this stuff just started to fall away. And I also, the biggest thing that I would say is that I really felt like I got connected to my purpose, like my really like what I was here to do. And I started to gain just this like desire and passion for this work and for like sharing this knowledge and for like spreading the word, because it's just so simple. Like all of the like these lifestyle habits and these, you know, the principles of Ayurveda are so, you know, my teacher calls it Ayurveda. It's like very obvious. It's very, you know, common sense. But again, it's like we've just kind of forgotten, and we like seek information, and we're like always trying to figure out like what's the best thing, and we're looking outside of ourselves, and we're trying to go to like the best experts. But it's like it's very, you know, intuitive, really. But we're so busy, and our minds are so full, and we're so distracted, and we're so overstimulated that we can no longer tap into this deep and higher intelligence that we all have, and this like deep intuition that really is all we need to listen to, this guidance from within. So I was able to finally like hear that voice and really like start to like just create habits that were in alignment with that. And that's really what it comes down to, is like self-care has to be a habit. It can't be something that you do when you've got everything on your to-do list done. It has to be part of your everyday life, because otherwise it just won't happen. It just doesn't. And everything we do, and that's part of my work now, is like teaching habits, because however we want our life to be and whatever we want to succeed at, it comes down to what we do every single day, not once in a while. It comes down to our daily routine. So we have to really create a daily routine that's in alignment with the kind of person we want to be, the kind of life we want to live, the kind of like health we want to experience, the kind of, you know, how we want to actually feel in our body and in our mind and in our spirit. So, you know, I think busyness is really, again, it's also an epidemic. It's like an addiction, like we're addicted. There's a really awesome article in the New York Times called The Busy Trap, and it talks about how like we base our worth on how busy we are. Like if we're busy, we feel worthy because we're important and we're needed. We've got lots of things to do. And so it's like become this status symbol, and like we wear busyness as like a badge of honor. Like you talk to people, it's like, Harry, I'm so busy, you know? I mean, and you know, so it's really become an addiction, because it's like we feel like we can't get out of it. Because again, it's like we feel like we've got just stuff to do, and it's like I can't not do that stuff. Like I can't not take care of my, you know, my family. I can't not do the responsibilities at my work. It's like, so we feel trapped in it, and then so we just like are stuck in this endless cycle and this rut. And we sense, though, I think that we really all sense that like life, there's got to be more to life than just being busy all the time, and then just having our schedules like full from like the moment we wake up to the moment we're asleep. Like there's like intrinsic pleasure that we're not tapping into, and that we're not doing, like, you know, we're not even, maybe we don't have the time to even figure out what our passion is, or to really follow our purpose or our deepest desires, or to do the things that really light us up and fill us up. Like that's, like our life is short, and it's going fast, and it's going faster and faster and faster. And it's like we have to like press the pause, and we have to slow down, and we have to take time to really reflect on, you know, what is the current trajectory of my life? Like the way that my busyness and my lifestyle patterns and habits, like where is this leading me? So I don't think we often stop to think about that, because I think it's kind of depressing. And I think it can be scary, because in some cases it can be like leading to disease, like sickness, like again, like all the hormonal issues or adrenal fatigue, or just, I mean, we all know like the negative effects of stress, and like most of us are stressed, and that on a daily basis, and it just deteriorates our whole system on every level, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And not only that, but what was bothering me the most, and what I think for me really pushed me to change, was that like the way I was, and like the busyness and the feeling of stress and overwhelm at like so much to do, and I was just so impatient that I was taking it out on my family. I wasn't the kind of mom I wanted to be. I wasn't the kind of partner I wanted to be. And then I was just that guilt of like, losing my temper and, not being as compassionate as I know I wanted to be. I knew I was like imprinting patterns in my kids, and like I was actually like molding them, and like my behavior was creating the kind of person they were going to be when they grow up, and that really scared me. And that was like, because I think really we need a motivation that's bigger than just ourselves, which is why we don't change, because it's like we're the only ones suffering, but really we're not. Like we think our problems are just our problems and we'll just deal with our problems, but we're all connected. And we notice with the people around us, because we'll often like be our true selves around the people around us, because hopefully we hope that they don't desert us. At least that was my hope. And but we affect the people around us. Like when you're around like a cashier or someone that's like really like grumpy, like it totally affects you. And just in our day-to-day lives, like we do have an impact on the people that we come into contact with. But not only that, like if the trajectory of how we're going now is going to lead to us being burnt out and sick and diseased, like somebody's going to have to pick up our slack. Somebody's going to have to take care of us. And we're going to deeply hurt the people that love us, because they don't want to see us suffer. So these are really things to reflect on, to really think about. Because until we actually like think about where we're headed and what direction we're going in, we won't change. And that's actually, there's a great book called The Willpower Instinct. And she talks about basically, Kelly McGonigal, she has a TED Talk too, how the problem is that we don't think about our future self. Like we somehow think that what we do now doesn't actually have an effect on what's going to happen later. And that's our hope, really, that like we can like abuse our bodies and not take care of ourselves, and then if we don't think about like what it's actually going to cost us in the long run, then but it does cost us. So we do have to think about that. So, sorry, I'm just checking my notes. So I think, hopefully you're all here because you do sense that there's like more. There's like, you can enjoy your life more. And we don't have to be this way. We don't have to like be stuck in this rut. And it really comes down to changing our habits. And easier said than done, I know, because we've all tried to change habits. And I found now I know what works and I know what doesn't work as far as changing habits. What works is doing it with people that are on the same page, because our current relationships are perpetuating our current habits. Like, I don't know if you've ever like been out and it's like your friends are like, one more drink, and you're like, I really just want to go home. and we'll default to the lowest common denominator. And it's actually been shown that like our habits are contagious. Like, so the people around us will like take on the habits of the people around us for better or for worse. So surrounding yourself with people that have the kind of habits that you want to have, and the kind of life that you want to live, and like the kind of experience you want to be having. So being like connecting to a community that really is like pro self-care, as opposed to, not against it, but like just not living it and not doing it. What doesn't work is like trying to like overhaul our life and like trying to change everything at once, and like a diet. Like diets don't work, and it's been proven that you gain weight in the long run, because it doesn't work. Like just trying to change everything and overhaul and take out things and try to add new things. So there's a process. There's actually like a specific process to creating habits, and like that's now like, that's what I've been working and teaching and sharing and for the past few years, because it's like we don't know how to change. Like there's a science to it. There's an actual science to behavioral change and to habit change. So until we really understand that, it's like it has to come from a deeper level. It has to come from like, who we are and like our identity and all these different like steps. So I wanted to share with you my 4 favorite self-care habits that really have like huge, profound effect on just experiencing life with more ease and more pleasure and more joy. And making these habits a part of your life does have like a compounded positive effect. So instead of like the trajectory being a downward spiral, we're actually spiraling up. So the first one is having an evening routine. So in Ayurveda, everything is made up of one of the 5 elements of earth, water, air, fire, and space. And so are we. So if you've ever heard of like doshas, like each one of us has like a different constitution. Like some people have more earth, like they have more like they're larger, bigger bones. They retain more water. Some people have more fire. Their metabolism is stronger. They're more driven. They're more focused. They're more goal oriented. Then there's people that have more like air and space. So these are the people that are imbalanced. They can be scattered, because like think of space, it just disperses. They have their attention is kind of all over the place, or maybe they're like spacey, or even like you've heard like the word airheaded. But they can be also very creative, and they tend to be lighter in frame, but they tend towards dryness. So there's all these different tendencies, and these energies are also in the times of day. So in the evening hours between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. is the time of day that's governed by the elements of earth and water. And if you just think of those 5 elements, earth and water are the heaviest of elements. Like the energy of earth and water is down. It's the force of gravity pulls you down, pulls water down, the earth pulls you down. So our energy should also go down. So we shouldn't try to rev up at the end of the day. We should actually like tap into that and like slow down. And that's a time for like pleasure, like doing things like this is not the time to catch up on work. This is not the time to like finish like doing emails, or one of my students came up to me and she was like, what can I do to have more energy in the evening? I was like, nothing. You shouldn't have more energy in the evening. You should get tired. And the thing is, we don't even allow ourselves to feel tired. And we will like try to stimulate ourselves in some way. Maybe it's like having a tea or a coffee, which is, I think, crazy after dinner, but like having some sort of stimulation like sugar, something that will kind of give us like a little boost to kind of get through the rest of the day. But this is like when we should just be enjoying each other. Like if you live with people, like just enjoying each other's company, like reading, relaxing, taking a bath. If you have a hot tub, we have a hot tub, so that's like one of my favorite things to do is like get in the hot tub at the end of the day and just like let my day dissolve and like let everything like slow down, and just really like that's, we have control over the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And most of the time, for most of us, we don't have, like we've got stuff to do in the middle of the day. That's just life. Like we have work, we have responsibilities. But like we can bookend our days with me time. Like this is the time for us. Like this is the time that we can really like carve out and create the kind of experience we want to have, and that is going to actually inform how we feel the rest of the time. So in the end of the day, having an early dinner is really important, because if we're eating late, our digestive system has to work really hard at night, and I'm not going to go into that. That's in my webinar. So if you signed up, then I talk more about that. But having an evening routine that just allows you to tap into tiredness and like allowing you to feel yourself like slowing down. Because if you don't have an evening routine, you're not going to sleep well. You just won't. If you don't eat early and you don't have an evening routine that prepares you for sleep, you're going to have, you're going to be woken up in the middle of the night, and you're going to, have trouble going to sleep, or wake up and not be able to go back to sleep. Does anyone have trouble sleeping? Come on, raise your hand. And again, it's like hugely, I talk to people all the time, and that's like one of the biggest issues and problems with, our hormones are out of whack. And that's what causes us to wake up, because again, we're living so out of sync that like we've got all these little internal clocks with all the different hormone secretions that happen during different times of the day that govern like our energy levels, and basically like melatonin and the things that help us sleep, and cortisol. And so when we're out of whack, then they're like not firing the way they should be, and so we're having sleep issues. So starting with like eating early, and then like having an evening routine, and maybe taking just like being able to relax, like just relaxing, like real relaxation is so important, so that we can get good sleep. And good sleep, the most important hours for a good sleep is between 10 and 2. So that means we need to be in bed by 10. And again, this is like not cool. This is not like, this is counterculture. I get a lot of flack for like going to bed early, and it's like, I recognize it's really important to me that I get good sleep, because I know how bad I feel, and it's like it's like literally day and night from like when I get good sleep and when I don't. So it's not worth it for me. Like I am in bed by 9, I am asleep by 9:30 every single night. Like maybe once a month there's like something that I go to, and it's like that, and then I feel it the next day, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like I totally suffer. So yeah, totally, yeah. So going to bed by 10, because what happens between the hours of 10 and 2, not only do we get the best sleep, it's because there's a whole bunch of things happening in the body. Like our brains are literally getting cleaned. Like there's an awesome TED Talk on this. He talks about how this brain cleaning that happens, and the fact that it doesn't happen in so many people, is it's said to be maybe one of the causes of Alzheimer's, or contributor to Alzheimer's. So our brains get cleaned, everything gets detoxed. Like our body is going into deeper detoxification mode, like deeper processes. So this is why, like if we eat late, our body cannot do that deeper detoxing, because it's having to digest a lot of food. Our hormone, like our pineal gland, secretes human growth hormone. So that's when our body's repairing and building like muscle, as opposed to like cortisol and things that actually like dissolve our muscle tissue and our brain tissue, and like actually deteriorate our bodies. So it's really important that we get quality sleep between the hours of 10 and 2. And so when we're in bed by 10 and 2, the second habit is starting the day right. So starting the day right means, you're up by 6. And what happened, and this goes back into the elements. So between the hours of 6 and 10 are earth and water. So in the evening, but also in the morning. So in the morning, between 6 and 10, it gets heavy again. The energy gets slower, it gets denser, it gets more static. So if we are waking up in that time between 6 and 10, we are going to also feel heavier, denser, slower, more dull, more static. We're just not going to, it's going to be harder to get out of bed, basically. We're going to want to sleep in, and we'll feel sluggish for the rest of the day. We'll take that energy throughout the rest of the day. So that's why it's like, to get enough sleep, and enough sleep, we need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. It's really important that we get, it's like 97% of people need that much. And I know you'll hear a lot of people say, my husband is one of them, he's like, I only need 5 hours, I only need 6 hours, which, this has been also proven in many studies that like, when you get 6 hours of sleep over a long period of time, it's like you do not function. It's like being, it's like, there was actually a study done where over 2 weeks, they had people sleep only 6 hours. And then they would test like basically their performance, like mental performance, physical performance. They did all these tests. And they had to rate themselves, so the people had to rate themselves on their performance. And then the testers also rated them. So what was funny was that what was interesting was that the participants, they didn't even notice the decline in their performance. They thought they were doing fine. They thought they were doing just as good before with their 6 hours as they did before. But the testers actually could see that their performance was declining. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, they found that their performance was the same as if they had been up for 24 hours straight. And I've never been up for 24 hours straight, but if you ever have, your performance is not probably going to be very good. So, and just our immune system, they found that you're more susceptible to getting colds and getting flus when you don't sleep at least 7 to 9 hours. So we need between 7 and 9 hours. So for bed by 10, we can be up by 6. And so when you wake up, so my habit in the morning, my little morning ritual is when I wake up, and I usually wake up around between 5:15 and 6:30, I just take a moment in my bed and I just reflect on what I'm grateful for. And gratitude practice is huge, and I'm sure you all know the benefits of that. And so I really it's a ritual for me to just be in my bed and just to really take time to think about all the different things I'm grateful for. And then I set an intention for the day, and my mantra is how can I serve? And so I think about the people that I'll see that day and how can I be of service? And I'll just reflect on how I want the day to go, just set an intention for how I want things to go. So it's just these little rituals that put you in, they really do put you in a certain state, so that you're moving into your day in a state of appreciation and of positivity and of really focusing on the good. So then after I wake up, it's really important to hydrate, and I move my body every morning. We have to get the blood flowing. So every morning I have 45 minutes I do my 45 minutes of exercise, mostly yoga. I do some other stuff as well. And then I meditate for 15 minutes. So meditation is huge. And I know it's, a lot of people, it's this maybe feels like it's spiritual or connected to some sort of religion, and it totally doesn't have to be. And there's so many different kinds of meditation, but we all need it, especially in our day and age, especially with the fact that we are just bombarded by all the stimulation. We need that time to just be still. We need time to just process and literally allow our minds to just not plan and think and do, and because what it does, why I think it's so valuable to meditate is that when we meditate, we are allowing ourselves to just be with what is and to be in the moment. And I think being in the moment is the key to living a life that you love. That's it. That's all. And because if you've ever experienced meditation, or if you've ever been just caught in a moment where you're just so in the moment and you just feel how amazing it is and how full that moment is and how perfect it is, it's if we can just be able to do that more of the time. And when we tap into meditation, when we meditate, we learn how to do that. And then we can do that not only when we're meditating, but in our life. We can just allow ourselves to be with what is and not always feel wishing that it was different, or projecting into the future, or ruminating on the past, or planning, or whatever. It's just really allowing ourselves to just enjoy what is right now, because there is so much to enjoy right now. We don't have to we don't have to think about I'll enjoy my life when I get this, and this, when and when I've succeeded at this, and when I have the house I want to have, and as much money I want to have, and whatever. It's we don't have to wait for that. We can experience what we want to experience, and we can feel the way we want to feel right now. And we learn how to do that through the practice of meditation. It really, and I mean, there's so many benefits, and there's a laundry list of benefits of meditation, and it, I don't think it really serves to just rattle them off, but just knowing that what we're doing is tapping into being able to enjoy our lives, and it's shown to just develop those part of the brain, and the part of the brain that is in charge of emotional regulation, and optimism increases, positivity increases, depression goes away, all these things. So we have to make it a habit. It's so important, even if it's just you start small, like 1 minute, 3 minutes here and there. But you just start to again, it's these things compound. They build, the benefits, they build and build and build the more we do it. And I've found after I've been meditating regularly for several years now, and more every I'll just get these glimpses of recognizing how it's really impacting my life, and how I am so able to just regulate my moods more, and how I am able to just be more patient with my kids, and how I can just be more calm and be just more content, and really be able to just decide how I want to feel. And that's the thing, we feel so run by our minds and by our emotions, and that we feel we have no control over them. But we do. We have that power, but it's something we have to cultivate. It's like a muscle. So the more we can, practice meditation, the more we can really decide, I don't want to have that negative thought. I don't want to be in this negative state. I don't want to be in this funk. I can just snap out of it. I can just turn my attention to something else. So it's a really powerful practice. And then another habit is self-massage, and this is not the kinky kind. An oil massage is really important. So in Ayurveda, this is called abhyanga, and abhyanga means to anoint with oil. So oil is really important, and the reason why is that lotion, even if it's the health store brand, no bad ingredients, lotion is mixing oil and water. Oil and water do not mix. So in order for them to mix, they have to put emulsifiers in it. And then with emulsifiers, usually decompose. So in order for them not to decompose, they have to put some sort of preservative, even if they're natural. So anyway, we shouldn't put anything on our skin that we can't eat. Our skin is basically eating whatever is on it. It's absorbing everything. It's moving into the deeper tissues of our body. It's penetrating all the way into our blood, and then our blood has to process it. Our body has to digest it. So oil has a completely different quality than lotion. And oil, lotion also, it kind of stays on the surface, but oil goes deep, and it really nourishes on a really deep level. The word for oil in Sanskrit is called snehana, which is actually the same word as love. And when we massage our bodies, and we do it in a really nourishing way, it actually releases oxytocin. And oxytocin, we know, is the cuddle hormone. It's what mothers secrete when they're breastfeeding, and when we're hugging someone. So our bodies, we literally gain that experience by massaging our bodies in a very nurturing way. And so many of us, I think, have just a negative relationship with our physical body. We're we don't like our thighs, we don't like our butt, we don't like our, we have our cellulite, we're usually have this negative self-talk about our bodies. And we usually feel we're at war with our body, trying to beat it into shape. And when you massage your body, you change your relationship with your body. You start to come into a co-creative relationship with your body. You're literally molding your body, and honoring your body, and thanking your body. And it's I work with I've been teaching Carol, actually, and maybe that's why she got you guys to come today. But that was a big realization she had, that she was this idea of self-love, people always talk about it, and I always talk about it in yoga, and in yoga classes you always hear it mentioned, but she was it was an idea, but I didn't really know how to put that concept into a tangible thing. And she was self-massage is that. Self-massage is the concept of self-love put into practice. And for her, it was very profound. And for so many people, it's huge. Like, it has such a deep impact on everything, on our emotional body, on our physical body. So it's a really powerful practice, and just like a daily practice. And it's like, I know you're thinking like, I don't have time for meditation. I don't have time to, massage my body, and I don't have time to, relax at the end of the day. And that's, that's the thing. And we have to see that, like, this is our life. And like, we can be in the driver's seat. And like, there was a point in my life, like back, in that, before I really started doing this, where I did not feel like I was in the driver's seat of my life. I felt like I was totally not in control of my time. And I felt like just lost. And now I really feel like, what my habits do, like these and just like my daily routine, is they streamline. So that like, I actually realize like, I have enough time for everything. I do. And like, I'm like amazed at actually what I can accomplish, because you streamline. And I think there's this big idea that there's like not enough, this big like thing of like, there's not enough time, there's not enough space. Those two things. And like, that's a real imbalance, and when we have that idea. And this is something we've really got to rectify, because in Ayurveda we would say that's like a vata imbalance. And actually, like, most people these days have a vata imbalance, because vata is air and space, and it's movement. And so it's like the fast pace of our lives is creating this imbalance. And imbalances are the stem of, like, they say at least 80% of all diseases. So, and Ayurvedic is it's a holistic medicine, so it really understands that, like, how we think also can create like physical disease. Like, it's everything's working together. Like, it's not so linear, like, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if I'm being very clear, but everything affects us. Like, the way we think, what we do, like our emotions, our thoughts, like our spiritual, relationship with it all has an impact on our health and how we feel, and like what kind of diseases we have or we don't have. And we have actually so much control over the diseases we get. If you've heard of epigenetics, has anyone heard of epigenetics? Epigenetics is basically this, they've come to realize that something like 98% of our genes can be either turned off or turned on. Like, we all have certain genes. Like, our parents might have had diabetes or whatever, and so we have those genes, right? Genetic predispositions to certain diseases. But our lifestyle can either turn off or turn on those genes. So we can basically either guarantee that we get the diseases of our ancestors, or we can actually turn them off and not get them. And that's 98%. That's a lot. So we have not only so much power over like the way we feel and the life that we have, but actually like the diseases that we either get or we don't get. So it's really like getting our daily habits in check is really, really important. So I just want to finish off. Are there any questions? I know I talked a lot about any of the habits or anything. Yeah. Ayurve. Sorry. Ayuv. No. Ayurveda. And it means Ayur means the science, the life, and Veda is this science or truth. So Ayurveda means like the science of life or the truth of life. It's I love it because it really does. It really, when you understand it, you really do understand yourself more, because you understand like your constitution. So you understand like what your tendencies are. Like, when out of balance, I tend towards anger and irritability. Some people tend towards anxiety. Some people tend towards depression. And so like understanding like this is just part of your constitution, you know what you need to do to bring yourself back into balance. And that's really like, we need to know that it's like, there's not the same prescription for everyone. Like, and the wine for one person might be doing something drastically different than it is for someone else. So like we need to know like what for us is deep self-care and what brings us into balance. Like what do we need? And again, it's like we all know at a deep level, but sometimes we're just so disconnected with that intuitive part of ourselves. Like in Ayurveda, we have 5 bodies. We have a physical body, which is literally like the flesh. It's called the food body because it's literally like made from the food we eat. There's the pranic body, which is like the energetic body. There's the mind, emotional body. There's the intuitive body, and there's the bliss body. So the bliss body is like, you know, the one that we need to tap into, and that's like the one of pure pleasure, of like enjoyment and feeling like interconnected with, you know, life, with life. So when we're out of sync with like nature's rhythms and like we're not kind of waking up with the sun and, you know, slowing down as it gets dark, then we're literally like disconnecting ourselves from nature. So when we're tapped into that bliss body, we realize we are part of all of it, and we're part of each, you know, we're connected with each other. And so it's just a really beautiful practice in science. And so I write all about it, and I blog all about it, and I have a blog, and I write about the habits and about yoga and Ayurveda, and just like, you know, starting to get into the driver's seat of your life and live the life that you want to live. And have the experience, because we can really design our life and our experience and our bodies. And we do it through our habits, plain and simple. So, and again, I mentioned, yeah. Yeah, so it's self-massage. So it's called Abhyanga, and so the oil that I use, you can use sesame oil, you can use almond oil, you can use coconut oil. You want to use good oil because again, it's like it's food for your body. So like unrefined, natural, and I put essential oils in it. So you know, it smells good, and I just like massage your whole body, and you just that's really it. I massage my body and then I shower. Some people like to do it after, but when you shower after, it penetrates deeper, like the warm water. And then you don't use soap, because soap literally like strips our skin. There's another benefit to oil massage I just remembered, that like you've got little microbes on your skin. And the inner skin, like in your digestive system, and your outer skin. And oil actually feeds the healthy ones. So you're actually boosting your immune system. When you use soap, it strips all that off. So you're actually making yourself more susceptible to illness.
Do you do that in the morning or at night?
It depends. Like I'll do it after my hot tub. I'll do it in the morning before my shower, but I'll do it in the evening after my hot tub. So, yeah.
So
Once or twice, yeah. Sorry?
I had the same question.
Okay, yeah, once or twice, yeah. But I found like, you know, in changing habits, like we have to understand how, because there's a process, and I again, like having guidance, having a community, being a part of, you know, a community of people that are, you know, doing this stuff too, so that you don't feel like the odd man out, because again, some of the stuff is like counterculture.